Hello viewers and welcome to another chapter of reading, so let's get started, shall we? Chapter 4, The 7 Potters. And you might want to have some tissues handy. You're gonna need them throughout this chapter. It's a heavy one, I'll put it that way. But let's begin, shall we? Harry ran back upstairs to his bedroom, arriving at the window just in time to see the Dursleys' car swing out of the drive and off of the road. Daedalus' top hat was visible between Aunt Petunia and Dudley in the back seat. The car turned right at the end of Privet Drive. Its windows burned scarlet for a moment in the now setting sun, and then it was gone. Harry picked up Hedwig's cage, his firebolt, and his rucksack. Gave his unnaturally tidy bedroom one last sleeping look. I mean, let's be real, my room is rarely tidy too. Sorry, I need some humor to break the heaviness of this chapter, and well, my room is fairly tidy too, so. But anyway. And then made his ungainly way back downstairs to the hall, where he deposited cage, broomstick, and bag near the foot of the stairs. The light was fading rapidly now, the hall full of shadows in the evening light. It felt most strange to stand here in the silence and know that he was about to leave the house for the last time. Long ago, when he had been left alone while the Dursleys were out to enjoy themselves, the hours of solitude had been a rare treat. Pausing only to sneak something tasty from the fridge, he had rushed upstairs to play on Dudley's computer, or put on the television and flick through the channels to his heart's content. It gave him an odd, empty feeling to remember those times. It was like remembering a younger brother whom he had lost. That's for Harry. You're gonna need a lot of them. Don't you want to take a last look at the place? He asked Hedwig, who was still sulking with her head under her wing. We'll never be here again. Don't you want to remember all the good times? I mean, look at this doormat. What memories. Dudley puked on it after I saved him from the Dementors. Turns out he was grateful after all. Can you believe it? And last summer tumbled through that front door. Harry lost the... This chapter is so heavy and sad. I'm sorry. It's not even at the saddest part yet, and it's so sad already. Harry lost the thread of his thoughts for a moment, and Hedwig did nothing to help him retrieve it, but continued to sit with her head under her wing. Harry turned his back on the front door. Another here, Hedwig. Harry pulled open a door under the stairs. It's where I used to sleep. You never knew me then. I made small. I'd forgotten. Harry looked around at the stacked shoes and umbrellas, remembering how they used to wake every morning looking up at the underside of the staircase, which was more often than not adorned with a spider or two. Those had been the days before he had known anything about his true identity. Before he had found out how his parents died, or why such strange things happened often around him. But Harry could still remember the dreams that had dogged him, even in those days. Confused dreams involving flashes of green light, and once Uncle Vernon had nearly crashed the car when Harry had recounted it. A flying motorbike. There was a sudden deafening roar from somewhere nearby. Harry straightened up with a jerk and smacked the top of his head on the doorframe, pausing only to employ a few of Uncle Vernon's choicest swear words, which I don't want to imagine or say for the sake of my grandma. He staggered back into the kitchen, clutching his head and staring out of the window into the back garden. This is me looking at my window. The darkness seemed to be rippling, the air itself quivering. Then, one by one, figures began to pop into sight as their disillusionment charms lifted. Dominating the scene was Hagrid. Wearing a helmet, goggles, sitting astride an enormous motorbike with a black sidecar attached. All around him, other people were dismounting from rooms and into cases, skeletal black-winged horses. Wrenching open the back door, Harry hurtled into their midst. There was a general cry of greeting as Hermione flung her arms around him. Ron clapped him off the back, and Hagrid said, "All right, Harry, ready for the off?" "Definitely," said Harry, beaming around at them all. "But I wasn't expecting this many of you." "Change of plan," growled Mad-Eye, who was holding two enormous bulging sacks, and whose magical eye was spinning from the darkening sky to house to garden with dizzying rapidity. Oof. Sounds like a roller coaster or one of those fair rides that you go up in the air and then you spin around and then it's just like, yeah, no. Either way, you don't catch, you'll catch me on a nice coaster, but nothing too intense. And similarly, you won't catch me on one of those spinny things I mentioned. But anyway, let's get under cover before we talk you through it. Harry led them all back into the kitchen where, laughing and chattering, they settled on chairs, sat themselves upon Aunt Petunia's gleaming work surfaces, or leaned up against her spotless appliances. Ron, blonde and lanky. Hermione, her bushy hair tied back in a long plait. I would have loved to seen her hair in a plait. I'm sure Emma Watson can pull off a brilliant plait. Really. Okay, now I'm curious. Did she ever wear her hair in a braid? Or plait? Well, it's not exactly the full effect, considering it's more bund, but there are braids. And she pulls them off really well, so why wasn't her plate in the films? Like, I would have loved to seen it. But anyway. Fred and George grinning identically. Of course. Bill, badly scarred and long-haired. I mean, I have long hair too. Mr. Weasley, kind-faced, balding, his spectacles a little AY. Mad-Eye, battle-worn, one-legged, his bright blue magical eye whizzing in its socket. Tonks, whose short hair was her favorite shade of bright pink. The bubblegum from Order of the Phoenix, maybe? But I still think the purple from the films suits her much better. Like, it just has a little more spunk to it, you know? But anyway. Lupin, grayer, more lined. Fleur, slender and beautiful with her long silvery blonde hair. Kingsley, bald, black, broad-shouldered. Hagrid, with his wild hair and beard. We don't expect anything less of you, Hagrid. Standing hunchback to avoid hitting his head on the ceiling. Yeah, probably for the best. And Mundungus Fletcher, small, dirty, and hangdog, with his droopy basset hound's eyes and matted hair. Harry's heart seemed to expand and glow at the sight. He felt incredibly fond of all of them, even Mundungus, whom he had tried to strangle the last time they had met. Kingsley, I thought you were looking after the Muggle Prime Minister? He called across the room. Which for historical context would still be John Major. You can get along without me for one night, said Kingsley. You're more important. Harry, guess what? Said Tonks from her perch on top of the washing machine, and she wiggled her left hand at him. A ring glittered there. Oh, Tonks. I am not looking forward to your future fate. Newcomers, you're gonna have to wait. Advanced Potterheads, you already know. But for reference, looks for Tonks. But married? Harry yelped, looking from her to Lupin. Sorry I couldn't be there, Harry. It was very quiet. It's brilliant. Congrats. All right. We'll have time for a cozy catch up later, roared Moody over the hubbub. And silence fell on the kitchen. Moody dropped his sacks at his feet and turned to Harry. As Douglas probably told you, we had to abandon Plan A. Caius' sickness has gone over, which gives us a big problem. He's made it an imprincipiable offense to connect this house to the Flu Network. Play support here, or operate in or out. All done in the name of your protection to prevent you-know-who getting in at you. Absolutely pointless, seeing as your mother's charm does that already. What he's really done is to stop you getting out of here safely. Second problem. You're underage, which means you've still got the trace on you. I don't The trace, said Mad-Eye, Moody impatiently. The charm that detects magical activity around under 17s. The way the Ministry finds out about underage magic. If you or anyone around you casts a spell to get you out of here, the Gness is going to know about it, and so are the Death Eaters. We can't wait for the trace to break, because the moment you turn 17, you'll lose all the protection your mother gave you. In short, Pius Thickness thinks he's got you cornered good and proper. Harry could not help but agree with the unknown Thickness. So what are we going to do? We're going to use the only means of transport left to us. The only ones the trace can't detect, because we don't need to cast spells on them. Brooms, Thestrals, and Hagrid's motorbike. Harry could see flaws in this plan. Yeah, one of them is rather tragic, as we'll get into later. And advanced hugs for Harry. However, he held his tongue to give Mad-Eye the chance to address them. Now, your mother's charm will only break under 2 conditions. When you come of age, or Moody gestured around the pristine kitchen, you no longer call this place home. You, your aunt and uncle are going your separate ways tonight, in the full understanding that you're never going to live together again, correct? Harry nodded. You know, by that logic, the trace would have been broken under both, because long ago, Harry established Hogwarts as his home. And the other condition when he comes of age would happen when he comes of age, aka turns 17. So, technically by that logic, both conditions have been met already. Like, not already, but it's like the condition that he no longer calls that place home has been in effect for years. So you would think the trace would be you would think that trace would have been removed in those circumstances. I'm sorry for laughing, but it's just like, how do they not think of this? I'm sorry, it's just, I need some humor to lighten this heavy chapter, and finding out that Harry already met half of this criteria for years. It's just like, not only is it like, why did they not address this sooner, and why have people not thought about it before? So it's just like, I hope I'm broadening your I'm broadening your knowledge of Potter. Potter is a special interest trademark of a special interest trademark of mine. But obviously you wouldn't be here if you didn't know that, so moving on before I get too ahead and distracted. ADHD life. So this time when you leave, there'll be no going back, and the charm will break the moment you get outside its range. We're choosing to break it early, because the alternative is waiting for you-know-who to come and seize you the moment you turn 17. The one thing we've got on our side is that you-know-who doesn't know we're moving you tonight. We leaked a big trail to the Ministry. They think you're not leaving until the 30th. However, this is you-know-who we're dealing with, so we can't just rely on him getting the day wrong. He's bound to have a couple of Death Eaters patrolling the skies in this general area, just in case. So we've given them a dozen different houses every protection can throw at them. They all look like they could be the place we're going to hide you. They've got some connection to the Order. My house, Kingsley's place, Molly's, Auntie Maria's. You get the idea. Now I'm curious as to what Moody's house looks like. And Molly's, Auntie Maria's. And Kingsley's, like, what do they look like? I'm curious. What do you think they look like? Please comment. I'm curious. Yeah, said Harry, not entirely truthfully, because he could still spot a gaping hole in the plan. You'll be going to Tonks's parents. Once you are within the boundaries of the protective enchantments we put on their house, you'll be able to use a portkey to the pearl. Any questions? Yes, said Harry. Maybe they won't know which of the 12 secure houses I'm headed for at first, but won't it be sort of obvious once he performed a quick head count? 14 of us fly off toward Tonks's parents. Ah, said Moody. I forgot to mention the key point. 14 of us won't be flying to Tonks's parents. There will be 7 Harry Potters moving through the skies tonight, each of them with a companion, each pair heading for a different safe house. From inside his cloak, Moody now withdrew a flask of what looked like mud. Why does it have to return? Just when I think we're done with dimensions, it comes back to haunt me. I don't like mud. Nope, don't like mud. There was no need for him to say another word. Harry understood the rest of the plan immediately. No, he said loudly, his voice ringing through the kitchen. No way. I told him you'd take it like this, said Hermione with a hint of complacency. Oh, Hermione, we love you. If you think I'm going to let 6 people risk their lives... Because it's the first time for all of us, said Ron. This is different. Pretending to be me. Well, none of us really fancy it, Harry, said Fred earnestly. Imagine if something went wrong and we're stuck as the specky, scrawny kids forever. We love the Weasley twins. We stand the twins in this house. Both Fred and George and Grace and Kaylee. Of lovable 6-year-old darlings. Even though they can be a little slightly noisy at times. Either way, we stand gingerhaired twins. Moving on. Harry did not smile. If you can't do it if I don't cooperate, you need me to give you some hair. Well, that's that plan scuppered, said George. Obviously, there's no chance of all of us getting a bit of your hair unless you cooperate. Yeah, 13 of us against one bloke who's not allowed to use magic. We've got no chance, said Fred. Funny, said Harry. Really amusing. It has to come to force, and it will, growled Moody, his magical eye now quivering a little in its socket as he glared at Harry. Everyone here is a bright Potter, and they're all prepared to take the risk. Madungus shrugged and grimaced. The magical eye swerved sideways to glare at him from the side of Moody's head. Let's have no more arguments. Time's wearing on. What a view of your hairs, boy. No. This is mad. There's no need. No need. Snarled Moody. But you know who out there and have the ministry on his side. Potter, but lucky he'll have swallowed the big bait, and he'll be planning to ambush you on the 30th. But he'd be mad not to have a Death Eater or two keeping an eye out. It's what I'd do. They might not be able to get at you or this house while your mother's charm holds, but it's about to break. And they know the rough position of the place. Our only chance is to use decoys. Even you know who can't split himself into 7. Harry caught Hermione's eye and looked away at once. So, Potter, some of your hair, if you please. Harry glanced at Ron, who grimaced at him and just sort of drew away. No! Barked Moody. With other eyes upon him, Harry reached up to the top of his head, grabbed a hank of hair, and pulled. Ouch. That's gotta be painful. Good, said Moody, limping forward as he pulled the stopper out of the flask and potion. Straighten here, if you please. Harry dropped the hair into the mud like liquid. The moment it made contact with its surface, the potion began to froth and smoke. Then, all at once, it turned to clear, bright gold. Oh, I love this callback to Chamber of Secrets. Ooh, you look much tastier than crab and coil, Harry, said Hermione, before catching sight of Ron's raised eyebrows, blushing slightly and saying, "Oh, you know what I mean. Quill's potion looks like pokies." Right then, Big Potter's line up over here, please, said Moody. Ron, Hermione, Fred, George, and Fleur lined up in front of Aunt Petunia's gleaming sink. "Run short," said Lupin. "Here," said Hagrid gruffly, and he lifted Mundungus by the scruff of the neck and dropped him down beside Fleur, who wrinkled her nose pointedly and moved along to stand between Fred and George instead. Good move, Fleur. I'd do the same thing. "Told you, I'd sooner be a protector," said Mundungus. "Shut it," growled Moody. "As I've already told you, you'll find this one. Any Death Eaters we run into will be aiming to capture Potter, not to kill him. Dumbledore always said you know who would want to finish Potter in person." Foreshadowing. "It'll be the protectors who have got the most to worry about. The Death Eaters will want to kill them." Mundungus did not look particularly reassured, but Moody was already pouring half a dozen egg cup-sized glasses from inside his cloak, which he handed out before pouring a little polyjuice potion into each one. All together then. Ron, Hermione, Fred, George, Fleur, and Mundungus drank. All of them gasped and grimaced as the potion hit their throats. At once their features began to bubble and distort like hot wax. Hermione and Mundungus were shooting upward. Ron, Fred, and George were shrinking. Their hair was darkening. Hermione's and Fleur's peering to shoot backward into their skulls. Moody, quite unconcerned, was now loosening the ties of the large sacks he brought with him. When he straightened up again, there were 6 Harry Potters gasping and panting in front of them. Fred and George turned to each other and said together, "I love this line. I love this line so much." And yes, I'm going to be showing some little snippets of the film because I love this line. Don't hold it against me.
Wow, we're identical. Not yet, you're not.
I just love that line so much that I had to include a little bit of the film because it was too precious not to. But if you really want me to read it, fine. Wow, we're identical. I don't know though. I still think I'm better looking, said Fred, examining his reflection in the kettle. Said Flora, checking herself in the microwave door. Don't look at me. I'm hideous. Oh, Flora, I'm sure you're beautiful regardless. Those clothes are a bit roomy. I've got smaller hair, said Moody, indicating the first sack, and vice versa. Don't forget the glasses. There's 6 pairs in the side pocket, and when you're dressed, there's luggage in the other side. The real Harry thought this might just be the most bizarre thing he had ever seen. And he had seen some extremely odd things. He watched as his 6 doppelgangers rummaged in their sacks, pulling out sets of clothes, putting on glasses, stuffing their own things away. He felt like asking them to show a little more respect for his privacy. As they began stripping off with impunity, clearly much more at ease with displaying his own body than they would have been their own. Yeah, I would ask for a little bit of privacy too. I knew Ginny was lying about that tattoo. Nice callback to Half-Blood Prince, said Ron, looking down at his bare chest. Harry, your eyesight really is awful, said Hermione as she put on glasses. Once dressed, the fake Harrys took rucksacks and owl cages, each containing a stuffed snowy owl from the second sack. Well, we both know I have a stuffed Hedwig, but I'm probably gonna hug it when we're done with this chapter. But I don't really have it on hand. Oops. But yeah, when we get through this chapter, I'm gonna probably hug it. In the meantime, hugs for Harry. You're gonna need them a lot in this chapter. Good, said Moody as at last the seven dressed, bespectacled, and luggage-laden Harry's faced him. Probably the pairs will be as follows. Mundungus will be with me, by Broom. Why am I with you? Grunted the Harry nearest the back door. Because you're the one that needs watching, growled Moody. And sure enough, his magical eye did not waver from Mundungus as he continued. You'd Arthur and Fred? I'm George, said the twin at whom Moody was pointing. Can't you even tell us apart when we're Harry? Sorry, George. I'm only yanking your bond. I'm Fred, really. We need this humor. We need this humor in this chapter. It's heavy, but we need this humor. Enough messing around, snarled Moody. The other one, George or Fred or whoever you are, you're with Remus. Miss Delacour. I'm taking Fleur on a Thestro, said Bill. She's not that fond of brooms. Fleur walked over to stand beside him, giving him a soppy, slavish look that Harry hoped with all his heart would never appear on his face again. Oh, Harry, we love you anyway. Miss Granger with Kingsley, again by Thestral. Hermione looked reassured as she answered Kingsley's smile. Harry knew that Hermione too lacked confidence on a broomstick. Which saves you and me, Ron, said Tonks brightly, knocking over a mug tree as she waved at him. Ron did not look quite as pleased as Hermione. And you're with me, Harry. That all right? Said Hagrid, looking a little anxious. We'll be on the bike. Brooms and Thestrals can't take my weight, see? Not a lot of room on the seat with me on it. So you'll be in the sidecar. That's great, said Harry, not altogether truthfully. We think the Death Eaters will expect you to be on a broom, said Moody, who seemed to guess how Harry was feeling. Snape's had plenty of time to tell them everything about you he's never mentioned before. So if we do run into any Death Eaters, I'm betting they'll choose one of the Potters and look at home on a broomstick. All right then, he went on, tying up the sack with the fake Potter's clothes in it, and leading the way back to the door. And make it 3 minutes until we're supposed to leave. No point locking the back door. It won't keep the Death Eaters out when they come looking. Come on. Harry hurried into the hall to fetch his rucksack, firebolt, and Hedwig's cage before joining the others in the dark back garden. On every side, broomsticks were leaping into hands. Kingsley, you start reading so many names, they just get crossed around. Hermione had already been held up onto a great black thestral by Kingsley, or onto the other by Bill. Hagrid was standing ready beside the motorbike, goggles on. I would like to know why Harry's not on a thestral. I get what they're going for, but if this is the whole case, why couldn't Harry just be on a thestral? I mean, we know Hagrid said he can't handle the weight, but it's like, if Hagrid leads the way, and the real Harry follows very close to him, couldn't that be acceptable? Just something that's in my head right now because I needed to get it out and, share it with you guys. So, just Just a little spot of wonder, I suppose. But anyway, Hagrid was standing ready by beside the motorbike, goggles on. Is this him? Is this Sirius's bike? The very same, said Hagrid, beaming down at Harry. And the last time you was on it, Harry, I could fit you in one hand. Harry could not help but feel a little humiliated as he got into the sidecar. It placed him several feet below everybody else. Ron smirked at the sight of him sitting there like a child in a bumper car. Harry stuffed his rucksack and broomstick, not a broomstack. I don't know what a broomstack is, but I meant broomstick. Down by his feet and rammed Hedwig's cage between his knees. It was extremely uncomfortable. All those done but of tinkering, said Hagrid, quite oblivious to Harry's discomfort. He settled himself astride the motorcycle, which creaked slightly and sank inches into the ground. It's got a few tricks up its handle bars now. That one was my idea. He pointed a thick finger at a purple button near the speedometer. Please be careful, Hagrid, said Mr. Weasley, who was standing beside them holding his broomstick. I'm still not sure that it was advisable, and it's certainly only to be used in emergencies. Well, I would qualify this whole situation an emergency, Arthur. Moving on. All right, then, said Moody. Everyone ready, please. I want us all to leave at exactly the same time, or the whole point of the diversion is lost. Everybody mounted their brooms. Hold tight now, Ron, said Tonks, and Harry saw Ron throw a furtive, guilty look at Lupin before placing his hands on either side of her waist. Hagrid kicked the motorbike into life. It roared like a dragon. Well, I don't know how dragons roar, but this should work. And the sidecar began to vibrate. Good luck, everyone, shouted Moody. See you in about an hour at the Burrow. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. There was a great roar from the motorbike. Again. And Harry felt the sidecar gave a nasty lurch. He was rising through the air fast, his eyes watering slightly. Hair whipped back off his face. Around him brooms were soaring upward too. The long black tail of a thestral flicked past. His legs, jammed into the sidecar by Hedwig's cage, and his rucksack were already sore and starting to go numb. So great was his discomfort that he almost forgot to take a last glimpse of number 4 Pivot Drive. By the time he looked over the edge of the sidecar, he could no longer tell which one it was. Higher and higher as they climbed into the sky, and then out of nowhere, out of nothing, they were surrounded. At least 30 hooded figures, suspended in midair, formed a vast circle in the midst of which the Order members had risen, oblivious. Screams, a blaze of green light on every side. Hagrid gave a yell, and the motorbike rolled over. Harry lost any sense of where they were. Streetlights above him, yells around him. He was clinging the sidecar for dear life. Hedwig's cage, the firebolt, his rucksack slipped from beneath his knees. Oh, Hedwig! The broomstick spun to earth, but he just managed to seize the strap of his rucksack and the top of the cage as the motorbike swung the right way up again. A second's relief, then another burst of green light. The owl screeched and fell to the floor of the cage. No, no. The motorbike zoomed forward. Harry glimpsed hooded Death Eaters scattering as Hedwig blasted through their circle. Hedwig! Hedwig! But the owl lay motionless and pathetic as a toy on the floor of her cage. He glanced over his shoulder and saw a mass of people moving. Flares of green light. 2 pairs of people in brooms soaring off into the distance. But he could not tell who they were. Hugs for Harry. Hugs for Harry. Hugs for Harry. Hagrid, we've got to go back. We've got to go back. He yelled over the thunderous roar of the engine, pulling out his wand. Ramming Hedwig's cage onto the floor, refusing to believe that she was dead. Hagrid, turn around. My job's to get you that sight, Harry, bellowed Hagrid, and he opened the throttle. Stop! Stop! Harry shouted, but as he looked back again, 2 jets of green light flew past his left ear. 4 Death Eaters had broken away from their circle and were pursuing them, aiming for Hagrid's broad path. Hagrid swerved, but the Death Eaters were keeping up with the bike. More curses shot after them, and Harry had to sink low into the sidecar to avoid them. Wriggling around, he cried, "Stupid bike!" And a red bolt of light shot from his own wand, leaving a gap between the 4 pursuing Death Eaters as they scattered to avoid it. "Hold on, Harry, this'll do it for them," roared Hagrid, and Harry looked up just in time to see Hagrid slamming a thick finger into a green button near the fuel gauge. A solid brick wall, erupted out of the exhaust pipe. Okay, I would have wondered what that would have been like in the film. Craning his neck, Harry saw it explode into being in midair. 3 of the Death Eaters swerved and avoided it, but the 4th was not so lucky. He vanished from view and then dropped like a boulder from behind, his broomstick broken into pieces. One of his fellows slowed up to save him, but they and the airborne wall were swallowed by darkness as Hagrid leaned low over the handlebars and sped up. More killing gases flew past Harry's head from the 2 remaining Death Eaters' wands. They were aiming for Hagrid. Harry responded with further stunning spells. Red and green collided in midair in a shower of multicolored sparks, and Harry thought wildly of fireworks. I mean, I would too. And the muggles below, who would have no idea what was happening. "Here we go again, Harry! Hold on!" yelled Hagrid, and he jabbed at a second button. This time, a great net burst from the bike's exhaust, but the Death Eaters were ready for it. Not only did they swerve to avoid it, but the companion who had swerved to save their unconscious friend had caught up. He bloomed suddenly out of the darkness, and now 3 of them were pursuing the motorbike, all shooting curses after it. "This'll do it, Harry! Hold on tight!" yelled Hagrid, and Harry saw him slam his whole hand onto the purple button beside the speedometer, with an unmistakable bellowing roar. Again, I don't know about dragons, but dragon fire burst from the exhaust, white hot and blue, and the motorbike shot forward like a bullet with the sound of wrenching metal. Harry saw the Death Eater swerve out of sight to avoid the deadly trail of flame, and at the same time he felt the sidecar sway ominously. Its metal connections to the bike had splintered with the force of acceleration. "It's all right, Harry," bellowed Hagrid, now thrown flat onto his back by the surge of speed. Nobody was steering now, and the sidecar was starting to twist violently in the bike's slipstream. "Come on, Harry, don't worry." Hagrid yelled, and from inside of his jacket pocket he pulled his flowery pink umbrella. "Hagrid, no, let me!" "Reparo!" There was a deafening bang, and the sidecar broke away from the bike completely. Harry sped forward, propelled by the impetus of the bike's flight. Then the sidecar began to lose height. In desperation, Harry pointed his wand at the sidecar and shouted, "Wingardium Leviosa!" The sidecar rose like a cork, unsteerable, but at least still airborne. He had but a split second's relief, however, as more curses streaked past him. The 3 Death Eaters were closing in. "I'm coming, Harry!" Hagrid yelled from out of the darkness. But Harry could feel the sidecar beginning to sink again. Crouching as low as he could, he pointed at the middle of the oncoming figures and yelled, "Impedimenta!" The jinx hit the middle Death Eater square in the chest. For a moment, the man was absurdly spread-eagled in midair as though he had hit an invisible barrier. One of his fellows almost collided with him. Then the sidecar began to fall in earnest, and the remaining Death Eater shot a curse so close to Harry that he had to duck below the rim of the car, knocking out a tooth on the edge of his seat. "I'm coming, Harry, I'm coming!" A huge hand seized the back of Harry's robes and hoisted him out of the plummeting sidecar. Harry pulled his rucksack with him as he dragged himself onto the motorbike seat and found himself back to back with Hagrid. Why couldn't they have done that in the first place? As they soared upward away from the 2 remaining Death Eaters, Harry spat out blood from his mouth, pointed his wand at the falling sidecar, and yelled, "Confrigo!" He knew a dreadful, wrenching pain for Hedwig as it exploded. Hugs for Harry. Hugs for Harry. Hugs for Harry. Hugs for Harry. The Death Eater nearest it was blasted off his worm and fell from his sight. His companion fell back and vanished. I'm sorry, moaned Haggard. I shouldn't have tried to parrot myself. I've got no room. It's not a problem, just keep flying. Harry shouted back as two more Death Eaters emerged out of the darkness, drawing closer. As the curses came shooting across the intervening space again, Harry swerved and zigzagged. Harry knew that Hagrid did not dare use the dragon fire button again, with Harry seated so insecurely. Harry sent stunning spell after stunning spell back at their pursuers, barely holding them off. He shot another blocking jinx at them. The closest Death Eater swerved to avoid it, and his hood slipped, and by the red-white of his next stunning spell, Harry saw the strained with blank face of Stanley Shunpike. Stan. Expelliarmus! Harry yelled. That's him! It's him! It's the real one! The hooded Death Eater's shout reached Harry even above the thunder of the motorbike's engine. Next moment, both pursuers had fallen back and disappeared from view. Harry, what's happened? Bellowed Hagrid. Where have they gone? I don't know. Oh, wrong voices. Harry, what's happened? Bellowed Hagrid. Where have they gone? I don't know. But Harry was afraid. The hooded Death Eater had shouted, It's the real one! How had he known? He gazed around at the apparently empty darkness and felt its menace. Where were they? He clambered around on his seat to face forward and seized hold of the back of Hagrid's jacket. Hagrid, do the dragonfire thing again. Let's get out of here. Hold on tight, then, Harry. There was a deafening screeching roar again. Again, I don't know about dragons, but I hope that's sufficient. Because it certainly is a roar, don't you think? And the light blue fire shot from the exhaust. Harry felt himself slipping backward off of what little seat he had. Hagrid ran backward upon him, barely maintaining his grip on the handlebars. I think we've lost him, Harry. I think we've done it, yelled Hagrid. But Harry was not convinced. Fear leapt at him as he looked left and right for pursuers he was sure would come. Why had they fallen back? One of them still had a wand. It's him. It's the real one. They had said it right after he tried to disarm Stan. We're nearly there, Harry. We've nearly made it, shouted Hagrid. Harry felt the bike drop a little, as though the lights down on the ground seemed remote as stars. Then the scar on his forehead burned like a fire. As the Death Eater appeared on either side of the bike, two killing curses missed Harry by millimeters, cast from behind, and then Harry saw him. Voldemort was flying like smoke on the wind, without broomstick or thestral to hold him. Peter Pan, maybe? I'm sorry, I had to. His snake-like face gleaming out of the darkness, his white fingers raising his wand again. Hagrid let out a bellow of fear and steered the motorbike into a vertical dive, clinging on for dear life. I mean, I would too, really. Harry sent stunning spells flying at random into the whirling night. He saw a body fly past him, and he knew he had hit one of them. But then he heard a bang and saw sparks from the engine. The motorbike spiraled through the air completely out of control. Jets of green light shot past them again. Harry had no idea which way was up, which down. His scar was still burning. He expected to die at any second. A hooded figure on a broomstick was feet from him. He saw it raise its arm. No! With a shout of fury, Hagrid launched himself off the bike at the Death Eater. To his horror, Harry saw both Hagrid and the Death Eater falling out of sight, their combined weight too much for the broomstick. Barely gripping the plummeting bike with his knees, Harry heard Voldemort scream, It was over. He could not see or hear where Voldemort was, and he glimpsed another Death Eater swooping out of the way and heard Avada as the pain from Harry's scar forced his eyes shut. His wand acted of its own accord. He felt it drag his hand around like some great magnet, saw a spurt of golden fire through his half-closed eyelids, heard a crack and a scream of fury. The remaining Death Eater yelled. Voldemort screamed, No! Somehow Harry found his nose an inch from the dragon fire button. He punched it with his wand-free hand, and the bike shot more flames into the air, hurtling straight toward the ground. Hagrid! Harry called, holding on to the bike for dear life. Hagrid! Accio Hagrid! The motorbike sped up, sucked toward the earth. Face level with the handlebars, Harry could see nothing but distant lights growing nearer and nearer. He was going to crash, and there was nothing he could do about him. Behind him came another scream. A wand, Selwyn! Give me a wand! He felt Voldemort before he saw him. Looking sideways, he stared into the red eyes and was sure they could be the last thing he ever saw. Voldemort preparing to curse him once more. And then Voldemort vanished. Harry looked down and saw Hagrid spread-eagled on the ground below him. He pulled hard at the handlebars to avoid hitting him, groped for the brake, but with an ear-splitting, ground-trembling crash, oof, that would give me trauma, he smashed into a muddy pond. Ugh, why does mud have to return? But that is the end of this lengthy chapter, and of the farewell to Hedwig. You're going to need tissues for that. But join me next week for Chapter 5, Fallen Warrior. Until then, please join me, and please enjoy this tribute to Hedwig. I wrote it 7 years ago on the 17th of January. So I'm sharing it with you because not only is it important to me, because again, I did write it 7 years ago, but it's like, it's just really poignant, and I wanted to share it with you. So I hope you enjoyed the tribute. Hedwig was an owl, not just any ordinary owl. She was Harry's owl. Her royalty with Harry began when Hagrid got her on his 11th birthday, and ended when a Death Eater killed her in the Battle of the Seven Potters. While at Fort Pivot Drive, Harry commented that she was his only best friend. However, Harry met Ron and Hermione on Hogwarts Express. The friendship between Hedwig and Harry was endless, as Hedwig became friends with Ron and Hermione as well. The trio's friendship grew as they were like family to each other. Hedwig was introduced along with the rest of the Weasleys. Hedwig was loyal to Harry and his friends. I wonder if Hedwig would have gone along with the big family or not. My guess is that she would have if she had lived during the Battle of the Seven Potters. May Hedwig be in our hearts and teach us true loyalty throughout our lives. And that's the end of the trivia I wrote 7 years ago. I really hope you liked it. But again, join me next week for Chapter 5, Fallen Warrior. Until then, bye!